1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Can I ask a question?
Is it what comes after 11?
The new Top Gun movie, right, has been held back because of COVID. And I assume all these other movies have as well. Is it just going to be a massive dump of films that all come out at the same time at some stage in the future? How's this going to work?
Plus 19 episodes of the Unmade podcast.
Just boom.
They're going to have so many movies to play. They're going to have to project like 2 movies onto the screen at the same time, and you'll be watching 2 movies simultaneously, like overlaid on each other.
What are 2 films that would work well with that? If you Top Gun and Little Women at the same time, how do you think that'd go?
But both Top Gun movies. You won't be able to tell the difference.
Shot for shot remake.
How's the house move going?
Are we going to talk about this again, are we?
Is it worth talking about again? Like, do you blitz the move in 1 week, or have you still got unpacked boxes that will be there for like generations?
There are a few boxes still because they contain from storage toys that the girls have now grown out of.
Right.
And so we've got to actually decide what to do. We sort of packed up early because we were renovating, and they now look at them and they've grown out of them. And so we're going, oh, right, okay, we've got to deal with this now.
What are you going to do with them?
I'll probably give them away, I guess, to...
Like what, like Patreon perks?
That's right, yes. We're going to sign them and sell them bit by bit on eBay.
Every week, Tim has to smuggle a new toy into an episode of the Unmade podcast.
We did have an adventure yesterday with all the cardboard. So just phenomenal amount of cardboard to try and get out of the house. And it was all piling up into a giant cardboard thing. But we'd actually bought a couple of mattresses, and they came delivered in, like rolled up as a delivery sort of service. So when you took the mattresses out and unraveled them and all the rest of it, you're left with a cardboard boat, really. It's like a canoe, like that's long. And I was thinking, as a kid, I would have loved this. I would have made it into an X-Wing fighter or something. But we then filled that with lots and lots of other boxes. So we sort of had this massive, long, canoe thing that when we finally took the boxes out, my wife and I felt very proud that we did almost all of it in one massive canoe celebratory journey all the way down the stairs and around the building and all the rest of it. That was particularly satisfying.
And what do you do? Do you then go into like the Victoria Square and set it on fire?
Yeah, we just left it in the street.
Left it in the street.
Put it on the Torrens to see if it floated.
Oh, yeah. Do like a Birdman rally. See, jump off Glenelg Jetty and see if it could fly.
That's right. No, we did the traditional Viking way of disposing of cardboard boxes from a move, and that is put it out on the ocean and set it alight, and, it's a beautiful spiritual moment.
Did you have to shoot? Did you have to hit it with an arrow from a distance, like a burning arrow?
That's right, I forgot that. Yeah, you shoot the fiery arrow into
Nice.
It's a Viking tradition, Your Honour. We didn't know.
Viking tradition. When the Vikings used to move house, they'd always do it like this.
That's right. They always do that. Anyway, that's all I got on the moving house. Until next time.
I had an interesting day yesterday, and there's got to be some podcast ideas in it, because I've lived in the UK for, I think, over 18 years now. Yesterday, for the first time ever, I saw and visited Stonehenge.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioning you had not been there when we drove past the turnoffs a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I'd never... You can see it from a main road, but I'd never even seen it. But I went yesterday and finally ticked that box.
Can I ask, did you feel... Was it just like a random thing, or... Did you feel drawn there by mysterious ancient spiritual forces?
Well, you'd think Stonehenge would be a place I'd be quite into visiting, because it's got a bit of like, science and astronomy, loose associations, and it's like a famous thing, and I've got quite an interest in historic famous things like, the pyramids and stuff, so...
And I heard there's a McDonald's there.
I don't know. I didn't see a McDonald's, I have to admit. I mean, a couple of the stone formations are reminiscent of the Golden Arches, of course, but...
I thought I remember reading the paper years ago. There was a controversy because they wanted to put a Macca's at Stonehenge. I just assumed that's why you went. But anyway, move on.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I did not see a McDonald's, I have to admit. It did get me thinking, though, that there's a few podcast ideas came to light as I was thinking about it. One was a podcast about places you haven't visited that you want to, right? But that's a bit basic, and of course there's a million places in the world everyone wants to go.
Yeah.
I thought a better idea is almost like in the vein of I can't believe you've never seen Star Wars. The whole I can't believe you haven't been to X, because either it's so much in your wheelhouse of interest or you live so close to it,
Yeah.
and yet you haven't been to it. I think that would be quite like a fun one, like the person who lives, like everyone who lives in London that's never been to like the Tower of London or Buckingham Palace and things like that. So like, I can't believe you haven't been there would be a fun one. Is there any really famous Adelaide places you haven't been to?
Oh, that's a good question. We don't have a lot of famous places.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you've been to the Moles Bowls.
The Moles Balls, tick.
Yeah.
I've been to the Moles Balls several times, so several ticks. Going back again, so, more ticks to come. There's well, you tell me, you grew up here. What's here that I haven't seen? Every now and then people will mention like a playground somewhere that's out of town that's fun that I'll go, oh, okay, no, I don't know about that.
It's pretty hard to have not seen like the places in Adelaide, like,
Did we mention the Moles Balls?
Yeah. Have you been to... Oh, no, it's not that great. Have you been into the little Bradman Museum? That's probably somewhere you haven't been.
No. Is that the one under the War Memorial?
It's right near there. It's on, I think it's right on the corner there. So,
over the road near the Immigration Museum or something, is it? Yeah, Queen Victoria. Jeez. Let's just think.
That's a good podcast would be Brady and Tim try to think of interesting places in Adelaide. It's just us going,
Wait. No.
Oh, what about Stonehenge? Oh, no, that's in England.
It's funny when you find tourist places that have things that are reminiscent of famous places. Like, you know how other places have got like a few rocks and they call it mini Stonehenge or something? And it's just in, country Victoria somewhere.
I remember growing up thinking that, sort of in my head, confusing the Festival Theatre in Adelaide and Sydney Opera House.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking, well, they're pretty similar. They're near water and they've got like kind of funky roofs. Like, and I used to think, why does everyone get so carried away with the Sydney Opera House? We've got the Festival Theatre. Like, that's just as good. I'm still not completely dissuaded from that point of view. I think the Opera House has just got a nice bit of land, really. Like you could build anything there and it would be amazing.
Well, that's right. It's all location, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, no. You could put a McDonald's there on that little spit is that Bennelong Point that's on? I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't know Sydney very well.
I think it's called Bennelong Point, that little spit of land the Opera House is on.
I think that's right. I take pride in not knowing much about Sydney, actually, in a sense.
Yeah. Sydney, where's that? Is that the one in New South Wales?
You can get around. I remember using my GPS in Sydney when we were there on holidays trying to find, I think it was a Macca's, funny coincidentally.
There's got to be one here somewhere. We ended up at Stonehenge.
I just kept going up and down doing laps of the same portion of freeway because they got freeways everywhere, and apparently the Macca's was in the middle of the freeway, and I'm like, here we are again, it's not here. And then I'd get off and go back and turn right here. Hang on, we're on the freeway again.
Maybe they haven't built it yet. Let's just wait.
That's right. We'll just keep doing laps.
What's a place that you should have been, because you're you, that you haven't been?
That I should have, in the world or in Adelaide?
Have you been to the Vatican?
No, I haven't been to the Vatican. I haven't been to Italy at all. Yeah.
Well, you should go to the Vatican because, God and stuff. I know you're not Catholic, but, you should probably go to the Vatican just to, check it out.
Well, yeah, it's pretty cool. I know you've been there. You and Obama went on the same day, is that right?
Yes, I was there the day Obama was there. I've been to the Vatican a few times now.
You pretty much just...
I run the place. They've actually given me a spare key.
Have you got your painting up on the wall or anything yet? Is there anything?
There's only one key on that logo now because they lent me the other one.
Have you been in like the files, like in the vaults? Any place of interest that's vacuum sealed or?
I haven't been into like the secret archives. I've been to the astronomy archives, but they're not quite as, I haven't been to like the stuff where they have like the piece of paper that tells you whether or not God is real or not.
No, I've got that. That's here somewhere.
All right.
What about Galileo stuff? Isn't his stuff there?
Yeah, like, I didn't see all the Galileo stuff, like the trial stuff. Yeah. One place a lot of people would probably think I've been, but I haven't, is Cape Canaveral, where they launched the rockets from.
Oh, why not? You've got all this NASA stuff. Is NASA, is the headquarters of NASA somewhere else? They just use that?
Yeah, they've got Houston. I've been to Houston, where like Mission Control is in Texas.
Ah, right.
But they launched from Florida, and I haven't been there. I've been to Miami, but I haven't been to Cape Canaveral or anything.
Why do they launch from Florida? Is it just...
It's a better place to launch from for various reasons, and also, they like to spread all these facilities around the country so everyone gets a bit of the love. But it makes sense to launch that way over the sea and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. All right. Have you been to the moon?
I have not been to the moon. I felt like I was going there yesterday, driving back from Stonehenge, though. Some of the back roads we took were a bit wonky. I didn't know where we were going to end up, but... What
do you do at Stonehenge? You just stand there and look. Is it impressive? Is it awe-inspiring, or is it...
Let me tell you about it, because that was interesting. Because I had, like when you go to any famous place, you have a picture in your head. So we did a special Stonehenge deal. What you can do is, if you book in advance and you go early before they open or late after they close, and I obviously went for late, about 15 people or so in a small group get taken there after they've closed, and you can go right up into the stone circle and walk inside among all the rocks and stones. Because normally if you go there now, it's all roped off and there's like a walking path around it, probably 10 to 15 metres away, and you can't actually go near the stones. You can just walk around them and look at them for a while.
Oh.
But if you do this, if you pay the extra money and you go at the different time, you do this like, VIP experience sort of version.
Yep.
So that's what I did.
So you got to touch the stones?
Well, you're not allowed to actually touch the stones, but
You engraved your name?
If you were naughty, you could.
Right.
But you are like, you've got the run of the place, and there's like, you're pretty much unsupervised. There are like, people there from the place, but there's lots of stones around. But yeah, you're right up, you're right up in your face. Clearly you've been looking in detail at all my Instagram and Twitter pictures, so thanks for that, man.
I saw you standing there at Stonehenge, and the first thing I thought was, how good would they be as wickets for backyard cricket? Like, they just look like a massive set of stumps.
They would be awesome. It'd be pretty easy to bowl someone. The thing I love about talking to you is it makes me realise, and it's really sobering and really good to realise how little other people care about you and your life. and I think that's a really important lesson that people need to learn every day, because people spend so much time worrying about what people think of them. And you need to be constantly reminded, because it's good for your mental health to be reminded, other people just don't think about you that much, so don't worry about it.
They're not fretting about you, no. Well, they care. People care, but...
I'm not... Yeah,
but they're not...
They care less than you think. They care less... Okay, yeah.
About your Instagram photos, that's for sure, yes.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it's just good to be reminded, like, people, like, just don't think about you that much. Like, because so many people worry when something embarrassing happens in their life or something they think is not good. They think, oh man, everyone's just laughing at me behind my back. It's terrible. And I'm like, whatever that line is in The American President, 100 million people don't give a damn about you, your life, Mr. President. They give a damn about their own. That's what life's like. Anyway.
It is true in terms of the worrying, or can I wear this going out, or should I wear this or not wear this? And no one's ever paying any attention to what other people are wearing.
No,
Well,
they're just worried about what they're wearing.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, oh, God.
Yeah. getting back to Stonehenge, it's changed in recent years. So I went, obviously, under the new regime. I know people who went 10, 20 years ago. My sister went 20 years ago in normal hours and just walked among the stones, but you can't do that anymore. But what they've done now is they've actually built this monstrous visitor centre about 2 or 3 miles away with a big car park, and you can't even see Stonehenge from there. So you park there, and then little shuttle coaches drive you to the stones, and they park you about 100, 200 metres away from the stones, and then you walk up this little pathway, this rise, and the stones come more into view, and then you walk up to them. And I have to say, my first impression was significant disappointment. I was like, oh, they don't look like they look in the photos, and there aren't as many of them all upright and stuff, and it's a bit of a mess. And at first I was a bit disappointed. I later on realised, we spent an hour there walking among them and just sitting out on the grass looking at them and, doing you run out of photos you can take of a lump of rocks. But the thing I realised afterwards, as I was walking away, looking back at them, was where they park you and where you approach them. Of the 360 degrees of this circle is the worst view of the stones where you come from. They look at their worst and their messiest and least impressive on that first walk you have towards them. And when you walk around them and look at them from almost every other view, they're quite picturesque and they look like they do in the movies and things like that. And they look really lovely. Just that first impression is a bit rubbish. It's a bit of a shame.
Whoever designed the tourist experience just brought that road in on the precise wrong angle.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of did. You know how when you drive to Ayers Rock and then when you drive from the resort to the rock itself for all the nice views, they deliberately swing the road around.
That's
so you
right.
drive at the rock from quite a cool angle and it looks really good. They haven't done that with Stonehenge.
Yeah, that example came precisely to mind. Yeah. Because Uluru looks different on every angle. It's got all these. There's the postcard, but then over this side it looks much more smooth or much more rounded off and like a.
And some places
balloon.
It looks narrow. It doesn't look as wide from some areas and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, there are some angles of it you wouldn't even recognise Uluru, Ayers Rock, but but there's that beautiful one that is in the postcards. They bring you in that way in the car.
Yeah. Have you been to Loch Ness? That's another classic place?
Yeah, I've been to Loch Ness. Yeah.
Right.
Loch Ness is huge. When you're driving to lots of places in Scotland, you drive along Loch Ness for 20, 30 minutes. You'll just be driving along next to a huge lake, and that happens to be Loch Ness. Loch Ness isn't like a little billabong somewhere where people sit around waiting to see the monster. It's a huge lake with probably a couple of towns along it, and it's massive. It's massive.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
what else did I think about Stonehenge? The best part was talking to the security guard who spends all night there, hearing all the stories about stuff that goes on, what it's like guarding them and getting. That's my favourite thing of those places. You talk to the bus drivers and the security guards and say, what's the coolest thing you've seen, and getting all the good stories out of them.
What sort of things do you mean? Like people break in at night, or?
Well, yeah, it's a huge open space that it's in. It's surrounded by fields and roads and stuff like that. So. And there's a road nearby where all the hippies and the druid people come and park they'll just spend months and months there because they want to be near the stones. And
yeah, right.
There are kids as well that mess around at night and hide and try and get to the stones and stuff like that. So, and there's probably tourists and stuff that will probably try and get to them at night. So there's all night there are security guards with torches and stuff like that have to guard it because. You can't put huge fences around it. So,
do you ever buy souvenirs?
I have been known to buy souvenirs. I didn't on this particular trip because the gift shop was shut because I went late. But I will buy the odd souvenir.
What do you buy?
I quite like little replicas of things, little models. I don't tend to keep them, but I will buy them in the heat of the moment. Are you a souvenir buyer?
Not unless I'm buying something generally as a little gift or token to bring back for the girls. But I did for a while have magnets. So we collect, so I've got a few of those magnets. We had them on the fridge. The strangest thing happened. We've moved into this new house, another moving house story, and the people left the fridge behind. That was sort of part of the deal because it sort of fit perfectly and they didn't need it and whatever. And but I tried to put a magnet on the other day and it fell to the floor. It's not magnetized. And I've never known a non-magnetized fridge. So we've got all these magnets now, and you're like, well, what do you do with magnets? They're just a little weighty thing. They don't stick to anything.
You'll have to go buy yourself a big lump of iron.
That's right. That's right. But I'll buy something like that every now and then, but very rarely. I do have in my possession, though, an enormous collection of spoons that my parents collected over the years in our travel. And every country town in Australia, I think, has come up with a little spoon. Now, does everyone know what I mean by a spoon, don't you? These little touristy things.
Well, people know what a spoon is, but yeah. An ornamental spoon where on the handle they'll have a little like enamel decoration.
Have people heard of eating?
Tim, I know what you're saying already. I know what you're getting to. And the answer is yes. I will make an Unmade podcast spoon.
Oh, no, I wasn't. That is brilliant. That's perfect. Well, I love these spoons, actually. They've got commemorative spoons from Charles and Diana's wedding and from the Wentworth jail, and they've probably got a
So for people who don't know what Tim's talking about, they're little ornate, usually little silver sugar spoons. They're sort of sugar spoon, teaspoon size normally. And on the handle somewhere, there'll be a portion where there's a little enamel shape or disc normally with like a crest or like some kind of tourist thing. So, you'll visit Ballarat and buy a spoon with the Ballarat coat of arms on it. Or you'll visit Adelaide and get a little spoon with the Adelaide crest or the mole's balls on it or something. Get a little Stonehenge spoon. It's like a collector's item. Like a fridge magnet, but a spoon. Yeah, I know people who've collected spoons. I think it's time for the Unmade podcast spoon. I don't know who makes ornamental spoons.
I love that idea. I love these spoons. I haven't got racks to display them, but I've kept them and I really like them. And every now and then I get them out and sort them if I find them in the shed or when we were moving last, just to go, where's a cool one?
Sort them.
Do they
get a rack? If I make an Unmade podcast spoon, will you get a rack?
A rack with the one Unmade podcast spoon. I do.
Oh, you can chuck your other ones on there.
I can put a few more favourites on there. It is kind of a cool. It's like a ye olde Australian 1970s or an 80s kind of tourist idea, I think. Which is to say, that's when we got them. I guess people still do it now because you see them for sale everywhere, but they do feel like a bit of an old Australian kind of thing. So maybe it has a nostalgia.
In an era of selfies and photos and camera phones, the sort of the way people memorialise their visits have changed a bit, hasn't it? But collecting spoons. I'm looking at a few spoon collections on the web right now. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. I'm going to find out who manufactures these bad boys and get one made.
What do you call them? Commemorative spoons, are they?
I put collector spoons. Collector spoons.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if they're ever worth anything.
I'm sure some of them are worth a lot of money.
Not the ones we've got.
No. I like these NASA ones.
We used to come to Adelaide on holidays a lot, so there's a lot of Adelaide, different parts of Adelaide ones I'll have to pull out and
get Adelaide spoons.
Adelaide spoons, classic. See this could be a thing in Adelaide. You have to go and see Tim's spoon collection. That could be up there with the mole's balls.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it could be second at least because we can't think of anything else. Second.
You know what you should do? You should keep them at your church to get attendance numbers up and only get them out on Sundays and put them up in Sunday services.
Why?
Because that would be a good way for you to get new people into the church, like, while you're here, can I tell you a bit about God and stuff?
Why on earth would that work?
While you're here looking at my spoons.
The current people would say, what the heck is he doing with these spoons? We're leaving. That's it.
It could be like the Shroud of Turin and you only get them out like every 10 or 20 years.
The spoon guy.
People queue up to shuffle past them. You could get two of those moving escalators like at the Crown Jewels at the Tower of London and people just stand on them going past all your spoons.
Keep moving, please. No standing still.
Keep moving. No photos.
Are those the real spoons or these imitation ones? The real ones are in a vault out the back. They don't bring them out very often.
Excuse me, no photos. You can buy a book of glossy photos at the end.
That's right.
Yeah. So, quick sponsorship message, Tim, because we've got 2 today.
Oh, good stuff. Who's up first?
Storyblocks.
Nice.
Storyblocks is a website full of stock video, Also, stock pictures and audio, but the video collection is mightily impressive. And you sign up like as a member, you get a subscription, and you've got unlimited use of all of this stuff in all your creations, all your projects, your websites, your YouTube videos, whatever you're making, you can use this incredible collection of footage. It's so useful because a lot of the stuff is stuff you would never get to see or film, or you wouldn't be able to film at this level of professionalism. Tell you what, they've got some really nice stuff of, Tim. If you quickly log on to your Storyblocks.
I'm here.
Stonehenge.
Oh.
Stonehenge, all one word. They have a lovely collection of various bits of Stonehenge footage, time-lapse, computer animation recreations of Stonehenge with kind of like fly-through-y type things.
They look different to what I thought. Like this is already from a different angle.
So say you were making something about Stonehenge, like a little film or a little history thing or something you were doing on a YouTube channel or for a school project or whatever you were doing, you could just log on to Storyblocks, take your pick from all of this incredible stuff they have. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're into, Storyblocks is almost certainly going to have it.
Well, this is more images of Stonehenge than I've ever needed or likely to need. That's for sure.
You obviously didn't go onto my Instagram.
I have to say, I did see your Instagram this morning. I have had a busy day. 12 hours ago, I saw your photos, and here I am 12 hours later. I'm looking at more photos of Stonehenge. And it's like, you should get a job as a tourist operator at Stonehenge. Oh, dear.
Burned into your retinas. So people go to storyblocks.com/unmade. That's storyblocks.com/unmade. The /unmade lets them know you came from here. And seriously, this is one of the best things you'll ever do. Sign on, and whatever you need, whatever bit of film footage you can get, you can sign up to download all the video you want, or you can get like the deluxe version and get all the video, all the audio, all the images. It's like having your own personal library. It's like being your own personal multimedia company with this incredible library behind you.
Sometimes you go looking for an image, like you just think I need an image so you Google and then image to find it, and that's the wrong size and this and that's not quite what you want. And I've learned now just to go to Storyblocks and search through because I know it's going to be there, it's going to be the right size, it's going to be high res, it's going to be beautiful.
And reasonably importantly, you'll also have the legal right to use the Storyblocks images, whereas if you just Google an image...
That's right, yeah.
I mean, if that's how you get your images and videos, just by Googling stuff, seriously, people, you are in for a nasty surprise coming very soon. Whereas with Storyblocks, you have all the rights and licensing as part of your subscription, all kosher. Whatever you do, people, don't be Google imaging all your stuff that you need.
That sounds like sounds like a threat. What are you planning, man? They're in for a nasty surprise.
You're going to get a legal letter one of these days, and your house of cards is going to come falling down like Stonehenge did in European Vacation. Tim, before we do your idea, a little bit of housekeeping. For those who haven't seen, we have made an Unmade podcast. I call it a word search or a find a word. What do you call those huge grids of letters with lots of hidden words in them?
I struggle to find the right name, but I think a find a word is a name.
I grew up calling it a find a word. I think a word search is a more common name for it. But I've made one of the most ginormous ones you'd ever seen, and inside it is the names of all the Patreon supporters up to like the end of July. So I'll put a link in the notes, or if you're a Patreon, go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/unmadefm, and go and check out the huge word search. And if you're a supporter, you'll even find your name in there. And I've also put a few bonus words in there, like, Sofa Shop and Tim Hine and stuff like that. So there's a whole list of all the words that are in there. Go and check it out. It's just the kind of fun stuff we like to do to keep the Patreon fun. So, and if you want to become a Patreon supporter and be involved in the next crazy thing we do, it's patreon.com/unmadefm. Go and check it out. Have you had a go yet, Tim? You found your name?
No, I haven't. I haven't had a chance. No. Is my name in there? I'm not a patron supporter. I didn't actually know it would be in there.
If you look at the list of clues, there's all the Patreon names, and then there's a few bonus words, and like our names are in there, Unmade Podcast, Sofa Shop, things like a few things
brilliant.
Like
that. Yeah.
So see if you can go and find your name.
Like right now, you mean?
Yeah. Well, oh wait.
Well, how do you spell it?
Oh wait, 4 weeks.
I'm thinking of an idea around lists. I love lists, and I organise my day through lists. And I love nothing better than making lists and ticking things off and getting things done through lists.
Oh man, you're going to get me in so much trouble right now.
Oh, why is that?
Because I don't do lists, and my wife gets so mad at me for not making lists, and I'm always telling her, lists just don't work for me. They're not necessary. Hearing you talk about how much you love lists is just going to make her wish she was married to you instead of me.
Well, it's probably a reasonably common feeling that she has, but that's a segue. Let's not get off track.
Yeah, go on then.
Wish I was married to someone who hadn't dragged me to Stonehenge.
I could be home ticking off lists with Tim right now.
Maybe wander down to the Moles Balls, just have a look. Bradman Museum.
Have a look at the old spoon collection. Instead, I've got some guy that collects astronaut autographs.
And he hasn't even got a list of how many you got. What astronaut? Well, I don't know. It's just sort of scattered around here somewhere.
All right, Mr. Perfect List Man, tell me about your list idea.
Mr. Lister. That's right. I found a Wikipedia site called List of Lists of Lists. And it's a list of articles that contain other list articles on Wikipedia, but it also goes through all sorts of lists in 100 different areas. Surely you enjoy sporting lists and lists of greatest cricketers and things in that vein.
Hang on, if you wait 2 seconds, man. I'm going to get up and get a book off my shelf that I'm looking at right now.
Right.
Hang on, man. One of my all-time favourite books in my hand. Over 8 million copies sold. The Book of Lists.
Wow.
The original compendium of curious information. Warning, this book is addictive.
You actually have a book of lists in your...
Yeah, I'm holding it. Here it is, you can hear it. That's it, man. That's my book of lists.
So you're not anti-list, obviously, if you've got a book of lists.
No, I like curiosity lists, like, the 11 greatest blues songs, the 5 most often cited lake and sea monsters. What else have we got here? 23 cases of bizarre weather. 10 Olympic controversies, 29 stuffed or embalmed animals, 16 famous events that happened in a bathtub. These are all lists that are in the Book of Lists.
You love lists?
I love lists. I don't like to-do lists.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah, I like lists. I'm not opposed to lists.
Well, there's all sorts of lists that are famous through history that I think are worth exploring. The one that jumped up immediately to mind, which is what sort of gave birth to this idea, is the famous Schindler's List from the film Schindler's List, based on the book Schindler's Ark.
Right. The book really lets their theme down there, doesn't it?
That's right. Yeah, there's no arc. There's only a list. Yeah. But then there's Craig's List, and then there's Santa's List, and there are Benjamin Franklin's List of 13 Virtues, which I've never heard about, but apparently has a famous list of virtues.
Does it have to have a list in the name? Like, does the 10 Commandments count, or is that not a list?
That's a list. Very good. Yes. The Decalogue, 10. The bucket lists are also there. And so you can go through the sort of, obviously there's lists everywhere in terms of rating the sales of books, the New York Times bestseller list. There's blacklists, and I think there's an enormous amount of interesting lists. But I love lists, and I'm the person who, when he's done something during the day, adds it to the list and then crosses it off so that it's a good record of the day, even though at the end I screw it up and throw it in the bin.
So it's literally on the list for like just a second before it's crossed off.
Yes. It just makes it a more comprehensive and quality and achievement-ridden list, because it's on there. It's done. And I feel deeply satisfied by it. And I make lists for my life, like in the years to come and the year ahead, but particularly the day. I love a pad of paper in front of me, and I just make lists of things to do in the day, and I do them, and it's marvelous. It's just thrilling and satisfying, and it makes me a wonderful person and a wonderful husband.
Well, speaking of which, another famous list, and I'm sure you've never done such a thing because, you're so righteous. But remember the episode of Friends where Ross and Rachel come up with a list of 5 celebrities that if they meet them, they'd be allowed to have a little bit of romance with.
Are you trying to end our marriages? What are you doing?
No. You know how but you know that famous episode, the list, and then Ross has his laminated.
Okay, I'm done with my choices. These are final.
And the next day he meets Isabella Rossellini, who was on his list, but he crossed her off, so she's not on the list.
I don't remember this episode. No, I don't.
Uma Thurman, Winona Ryder, Elizabeth Hurley, Michelle Pfeiffer, Dorothy Hamill?
It's an episode of Friends. So Ross and Rachel each write this list of 5 famous people. It's become like a piece of pop culture. If there's a really hunky celebrity, you'll say, oh, that person's on my list of, 5 people that, all bets are off sort of thing. It's a jokey thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I guess Chris O'Donnell, John F. Kennedy Jr., Daniel Day-Lewis, Sting, and Parker Stevenson.
Years and years ago, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we each jokingly said we each did this list thing just for the exercise of it. And she listed, 5 incredibly handsome, incredible celebrities, of course. I'm sure you'd be on the list now, Dan, after this whole list revelation, but at the time you weren't, I'm afraid. But so then I did my list, right? And I remember I named one particular celebrity who she was really surprised I named, didn't really think cut the mustard, and she was like, really, you're going to put her on your list? Why are you putting her? And I said, I just happen to like the look of her, and and I sort of was a bit strategic about it too. And I said, she's sort of realistic and someone I might meet one day. And my wife just laughed it off and said, oh, whatever, that's ridiculous. The next day I went to work, and I was working at the BBC at the time. And it turns out that celebrity happened to be visiting town, and I was sent out that next day to interview her. And literally the night before, I'd put her on this list. I texted my girlfriend, or my now wife, and said, you're not going to believe what just happened. I tell that story all the time.
That's marvellous. Did you tell the celebrity who the story?
I most certainly did not.
It's a difficult thing to bring up.
But that was exactly what happens in Friends. Ross puts Isabella Rossellini on his list, but in the Friends episode, he decides to cross her out in the end, and then he has his list laminated. And the next day he meets Isabella Rossellini and says, oh, I put you on this list. And she says, oh, really? Can I see it? And he pulls out the list and she's not on it. And he said, oh, I took you off it. But
he just sounds like an idiot,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dear. 2 of my favourite one of the cool things of lists are kids' lists. When you see children have made a list of things we're doing tomorrow, or things I'm looking forward to, or things I want. They're always very, very cute. You know what I mean? They're always like...
Are they usually a not so subtle way of telling their parents what they actually want?
Well, yeah, but they're more... I've found a few around the place that are not to be read by anyone else. Not because there's anything wrong with them, but they're just things to do tomorrow. And, eat ice cream, it's just, they're extremely specific.
Tim, have you been reading my list?
Yeah, that's Visit Stonehenge, go to Macca's. I have to say, probably my favourite lists are set lists from band set lists.
Ah, yes.
I used to collect these from concerts. I go down at the end of the concert, and I've got some pretty cool ones I got lots from, I got 3 or 4 from Midnight Oil. I've got one from Sting. I've got, I can't even remember. I've got a whole bunch of them. And but then a few years ago, a website came out called setlists.com. I think that's what it's called. Let me just look it up, setlists.
Oh, dear.
No, setlist.fm, where it lists, it's like a compendium of set lists from bands, shows, all through their history.
There goes Tim's productivity for the next 30 years.
Oh, yeah, it's so great, because it'll just hit me, I'll suddenly go, what did Radiohead play that song in 97 and on that tour? And you can look it up in a few different towns and see what and it's like, oh, no, they didn't play it. Why didn't they? And where it was and how they finished it. Because I love compiling set lists in my head if I was in a particular band and what I'd play and when I'd play it and what would flow from one song to the next. So, that was like, oh, you were patting me on the head.
It's cute. As you know, because you get drawn into it a little bit, but a mate of mine and I love doing fantasy cricket 11s.
Yes.
So we'll do like, the greatest ever 11 of left-handed batsmen, or peoples whose name are Mark, or like some weird criteria, and make your greatest ever cricket team of players that match that criteria. So that's my equivalent of the set list. A favourite list story of mine is the Apollo astronauts, when they were walking on the moon, had these very detailed checklists of all the things they had to do on the moon. And while they were in their huge bulky spacesuits and, couldn't be carrying around clipboards and stuff, they had these little booklets of checklists attached to their wrists and their cuffs, with these little pages that they would just turn over to look at what they had to do next.
This is the sample area I got. Deploy the color chart. Take your time, Al. Hey, I'm learning to do it.
And on Apollo 12, which was a bit of a jokey mission, they were like really fun. It was a really fun mission, not a jokey mission. They had a real sense of fun about them, those astronauts and the whole team. When they went to the moon, someone had, who had been preparing the lists, jokingly on a couple of the pages, had pasted risque pictures of scantily clad women onto the pages. So they were literally on the moon doing all these incredibly important tasks with the highest stakes and incredible danger. And they would turn the page on their thing to see, what they had to do next, pick up the bucket of rocks and put it in the spaceship and stuff. And suddenly there was this picture from a naughty magazine looking at them on their wrist on the moon. And they both just
totally.
They
thrown.
both just they just didn't expect it. And they both they didn't, obviously, when they saw it, they both sort of started laughing out of the surprise of it. They didn't say at the time what they were laughing at, because it happened to both astronauts at the same time. They just sort of laughed and thought, oh, what have those guys done? And it only kind of, it emerged a bit later and stuff. You can even go and look at them now and see what they had, but that was a funny list moment on the moon.
Okay, you're right to back crater. There's a lamp right in the background. Look great.
Were you a fan of the Late Show with David Letterman top 10 list? That's another.
No, I did. I think they were incredibly unfunny. Even at the time, I thought they were unfunny. Did you find them funny?
No, they were often not funny. They were often, but the crowd.
Who was writing those things?
I guess they have writers. Yeah, and they must have made them up during the day. But it's very, that group of people sitting around going, is this funny? Hey, this is funny. This is fun. Like writer's room kind of thing. But maybe they got the work experience guy to do that. It's like who's going to do the list? We've got to come up with something.
He didn't deliver them well either. That was not his strength as a presenter.
No.
He was an okay interviewer. He's not even my cup of tea as an interviewer. But I acknowledge he was at least okay at it. But he wasn't good at delivering those lists either.
He wasn't very good at stand-up, really, was he? He wasn't. That's not kind of his thing, the standing there. He's more sort of just, going back.
The problem was, I don't think he thought the lists were funny, and you could tell when he was reading them.
Yeah. He did them very quick, didn't he? Tick, 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 and then threw them off. And you could tell the less funny they were, the more music and sound effects and comments Paul Schaefer was making. Oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. Bam, bam, down. It's all over and done.
So what's your podcast idea, Tim? Because there are already lots of podcasts that are lists of one sort or another. This is, you're just you just want to riff on lists.
No. I think
of forms.
No, well, indeed, yes. So it's not on a particular list, but I like the idea of talking about lists per se. And a person can say, this is my favourite type of list, or this is my favourite list, and lists they appreciate, and the kind of lists they use, and lists they look up. I'm forever looking up lists of, the top 10, or particularly bands, like the top 10 albums in order of best to worst and that kind of, you know what I mean? So that would be my favourite kind of list that I like.
I spend a lot of my time doing that too with sport lists. So I'll see, pitchers that have pitched a perfect game in baseball, or, I do love my sporting lists a lot. Yeah, good one, man. I'd go for the list podcast. I'd go for that.
The list is life.
How are we for time? How's your headphone power?
Well, it hasn't done the second doodle thing yet, so
And how much time do you get when we get the second doodle loop?
I don't know. That means it's down. It does it at 20%, which is what it did, and that's when I swapped them over just to be safe. But it hasn't done it again, so we're still down to 10%. So there should be that time again.
So Tim, based on the previous episode, we did like voice. We talked about voice breaking. And we talked about how before that, like you have a high pitch voice, and for a little while we were like talking in high pitch voices.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be fun to have a whole podcast where you have to like sustain the podcast in a different pitch of voice?
Why on earth would you do that more than once? Like,
I don't know. But I thought maybe how about we see today's episode with because we have another sponsor today, right? We could do our sponsorship for Hover in high pitch voices.
Like we're all right. Here we go.
You ready?
Yeah. Hi.
All right, Tim.
Hey, man.
We've got another sponsor today, Tim. Do you know who it is?
Hover.
Yeah, it is. It's Hover.
Oh.
What can you tell people about Hover, Tim?
Hover. Well, it's a place you go to register domain names for websites on the World Wide Web.
You sound so much like your mum right now. That's right. That's right. Hover is where I go to register all my domain names. I have dozens and dozens of names registered there. And if you want to register a domain name for any project you're working on, you should do so too. You go to hover.com/unmade. And if you do the /unmade, you're going to get 10% off your first purchase at Hover. That's hover.com/unmade. Is there any sort of websites you're looking to register at the moment, Tim? You've got a few registered there, don't you?
I'm just looking up voicebreak.online, voicebreak.com.au, voicebreak.net.au. They're all here. No one wants a voicebreak website domain name.
No. That's unbelievable.
I know. You can... voicebreak.org.
Let me just check what else is available here. Highpitched.uk, highpitched.co.uk, highpitched.net. So if you were looking at doing some like project that involved high-pitched voices and you knew you were going to have like a YouTube channel or a website or social media at some stage, you're also going to want to have a domain you can use to link to all that. I would probably go for highpitched.net myself.
Man, my earphones have gone. So my earphones have gone. So I've got you.
Tim's earphones have gone, people, so that's actually the cue for us to end the show. So we're also going to end the ad. That's hover.com/unmade. If you want to register a domain name, that's the place to go, and there's going to be links in the description. Tim, do you want to see us out?
Yep. I just wanted to publicly apologise to Brady and the whole audience about my earphones. There's so much great funny stuff we were going to do, and we can't do it tonight.
So instead you got this.
Hover better be very grateful for this. Time to go home and watch the Grand Prix, man.